guys, so today we are headed to Wonderland or Neverland? No, it's not. We're headed to Oz. That's where we're going. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this awesome Wicked Witch of the West doll cake. So let's get started. To create this cake, I'm using a box cake that I baked in my doll cake pan, and I'm just gonna cut it into 3 equal layers. Usually I do this with a cake leveler, but it's too tall, so I had to do it with a serrated knife. I started to stack my cake, and I added some buttercream in between each layer and smoothed it out with my offset spatula. Now, the Wicked Witch is green, so I made this a mint chocolate chip cake. It's just vanilla box cake with some chocolate chips, some mint extract, and green food coloring. Do you guys like mint chocolate chip ice cream? I love it. If you crush up Oreos into your mint chocolate chip ice cream, game over, man. After I finished stacking my cake, I gave it a crumb coat and I placed it into the fridge for about 30 minutes to set up. Then I gave it a second coat of buttercream. I call this my fix-it coat. I just make sure that this coat fixes all of the mess from the previous layer and gets it ready for my fondant layer. I took a paring knife and just cut a hole into the top of the cake so that I had enough room for my doll's hips. I rolled out some black fondant and placed it on top of my cake. I just cut out a circle that was 14 inches in diameter. Now, using my fingers, I'm just enhancing and manipulating the folds that fall naturally when you put the fondant on the cake. You don't want to flatten this out at the bottom. You want to use all of those folds to create some ruffles for the bottom of your dress. I grabbed my Wicked Witch doll, placed her into the middle of the cake. Then I took some more black fondant and wrapped it around her waist so that her waist would match to the rest of the cake. Now, like most of my dolls, I'm gonna add some panels of fondant to give this dress some detail. I used a sculpting tool to mark out where I wanted those panels to be. And I'm just creating some lines at a 90-degree angle. I wet the fondant with some vodka, and then using a sculpting tool, I just blended it into the rest of the cake. And I'm creating a line at almost like a 90-degree angle so that I could give this cake some flow. Now, on the doll, the Wicked Witch has this really nice lace detail, and I wanted to incorporate that throughout the entire dress. So I used my fondant crank and I cranked out a black rope of fondant. I zigzagged my fondant to create that lace detail in between each of my panels. That's exactly why I marked them earlier. So I did one side, then I zigzagged the other side to give it this sort of like shoelace effect. Now, I repeated this process 3 times all the way around the cake. Dolls are really small, so when I have like this super small detail on my doll's like waist and like top area, I like to use it throughout the bottom of the dress so you can actually see it. I rolled out some more black fondant and I'm cutting it into my sail shape. I really want to like ingrain this into your brains because whenever you make a doll cake, this is like the best way to make it look like actual fabric. If you want to see more cakes that I've used this technique on, I've got an entire playlist for you. You can find it in the description box. And if you're looking for a printout, there's also a printout for you in the description box so you can recreate this shape. Now, I took my panel of fondant and placed it at a 90-degree angle on my doll cake. Now, the back tip of the sail, I flipped it over twice to give it this nice fold. Now, using my sculpting tools, I added some texture to each fondant to make it look even more like moving fabric. I created another panel for the back of the cake, and then I began to work on the Wicked Witch's top. This was hard, and it kind of sucked. Creating fondant sleeves for your doll is, I don't know, it's just so hard. So I started with her left arm and I wrapped some black fondant around her arm and just sealed it with a little bit of vodka at the back. Be very patient, okay, because you're probably gonna have to do this like multiple times to get it just right. After I placed on the left sleeve, I wrapped black fondant around her waist and her chest. And I just cut away the bottom of the top with a paring knife. I cut out shapes that I could easily blend into the bottom of the dress. Now, when you're covering your doll cake with fondant, you want to make sure you bend the arms before you add the fondant. I bent her right arm before I covered it with black fondant. Using a veining sculpting tool, I marked out where I wanted the shoelace detail on her chest to be. And then with a very thin string of fondant, I created the shoelace crisscross effect. Did you guys like crisscross when you were growing up? Oh, you're too young for that? That's okay. Now with a piece of fondant, I'm just gonna give her a shawl and wrap it around her neck and then down her back. And then I just gave it some texture with a sculpting tool. Now in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch is upset at Dorothy because she got her hands and her foots on those ruby slippers. I wanted this dress to look like she was able to get those ruby slippers and the ruby magic was just like swirling all around her. Now I used some vodka to adhere some red fondant to the front of the dress in between the lace detail. And then I painted on some vodka to the entire red piece of fondant. I'm sprinkling on some red edible shimmer, as well as some red candy coated chocolate and some red pearl sprinkles. I want to make sure this shimmers and shines as much as the ruby slippers in the movie. I decided to sprinkle the red shimmer all over the cake because I like the way that the flakes were getting caught on the lace detail. It makes it look like the magic is taking hold of the dress. Finally, I added the witch's hat that came with the doll. And voila! My Wicked Witch of the West doll cake was complete. I really like that I took like the small detail on the front of the dress and turned it into a large focal point for the rest of the gown. And I love how the sparkly bright red contrasts the black. I think it looks so cool. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that notification button so that you can see all of the videos that Genius Kitchen posts, including the ones that include me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love you. I will see you very soon. Peace.